Hey guys, it's Will at Magic, the Friendly Tavern. I just wanted to let you guests and travelers know today we're doing a deck deck. It's not going to be on a Delver deck. Today we're actually going to talk about my Abzan Boom deck. Now, what's so special about this deck and why do I call it a Boom deck? Well, this is actually a control deck that does not run blue. There is no blue, there is no counter spells, and yet it is still a control deck. If you look at the stats up here on the deck, you can see it only runs 13 creatures and runs 18 instants and sorceries. That's mainly removal. Almost all of that is removal. This artifact is actually also removal. So let's take a look. Speaking of that artifact, the artifact is actually Spear of Annihilation. It's an X in black. When it enters the battlefield with X void counters on it, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile Spear of Annihilation. All creatures and planeswalkers with mana value less or equal to the number of void counters on it, and all creatures and planeswalker cards in graveyards with mana less or equal to the number of void counters on it. So this is an exiling Board Wrath. Next up on our board wraths is Blood on the Snow. It's 6 mana, destroy all creatures or destroy all planeswalkers. Then if we spend snow mana, we can get a creature with value X or less from our graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the mana, amount of snow mana we spend on it. Then we also have Doomscar, which can be foretold for 3, but also destroys all creatures. That right there is 7 board wipes altogether. Plus, we have actually an 8th board wipe on the backside of Glyph Weaver, which we get to choose one creature and we destroy all the rest of the planeswalkers and creatures we get, and that's really good. We want to get a lot of 2-for-1s. We want to get a lot of 3-for-1s. We want to not trade 1-for-1 removal. We don't want to trade creatures. We want to blow up most of their stuff before we ever play out any of our threats. We want all of our threats are pretty much late game, even though we do have a little bit of early meat here in the 3 slot with a Resplendent Marshal and Selfless Glyph Weaver. We also are running Serulf and Skyless Apparition in the 3-drop slot. But these, as Serulf doubles his removal himself, he gets +1/+1 counters when an opponent's creature dies. And we can remove those counters at the beginning of our upkeep and destroy everything that is mana cost less than the number of counters that we remove. When this comes into play, we can remove a permanent that costs 4 or less. And they get, if they kill this, they get a token that's power is equal to the mana value, but that's okay. Resplendent Marshal is just in here to be a beater. Sometimes his ability comes up where he gets a +1/+1 counter on something, but not often. We also have Elite Spellbinder, which is also a 3/1 flyer for 3. And when it enters the battlefield, we look at the opponent's hand and we exile a card and we make it cost 2 more as long as it stays exiled. So it's a bit of control. It's a bit of a removal as well. Speaking of hand removal, we also have Check for Traps. What this does is we make them reveal their hand, and we get an instant card or a flash card. We exile a card. Choose an online card from it, they exile it. If it's an instant or flash card, they lose 1 life. Otherwise, we lose 1 life. No big deal. So we can hit anything that's on land. It costs 2, which is not good for this effect, but it's the best we got. So we can control their hand with those 2 spells. We can control the entire board with our board wipes. And then we have spot removal, like Fateful Absence. Destroy target creature or planeswalker its controller investigates. We don't care if they investigate. We might even be able to blow up that clue token before they even get the draw. This hits enchantments or creatures, and we lose a little bit of life. This hits creatures, and we lose life, but it costs 2, and it's an instant. This hits exiles any monocolored permanent instant. This is a 9th board wipe, actually. If you don't care, Serulf. The Meathook Massacre comes into play. Each creature gets -X till end of turn. X and 2 black. Whenever a creature you control dies, an opponent loses 1 life. Whenever the creature or opponent's control dies, we gain 1 life. Then we have Blot Out the Sky, which also can, we create X, tap 2/1 white and black Inkling token creatures with flying. So for 4 mana, we get 4 power flying on the board. That's really good. Do note they come into play tapped. Don't try and use this to set up blockers because you can't. Now, if X is 6 or more, we destroy all non-creature, non-land permanents, so we can hit artifacts, enchantments, and planeswalkers. So another bit of control. Then we are over to Drugar Necromancer. And what he does is he exiles from the graveyard. And even if we get to play it, that's good. If we don't get to play it, it's exiled from the graveyard. It's still controlled. It's still a control card. And it's also a beater. Next up is Gissa. And a creature would die, exile it instead. Again, we're controlling the graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gissa onto our battlefield under our control with decay. So we get more beaters. And again, we're controlling the graveyard. After that, we have 2 copies of Binding of the Old Gods, which destroy target non-land permanent opponent control. So that hits anything that's not a land. We have to put a forest card into play, and our creatures gain Death Touch. The Death Touch can be used to trade. Again, all control aspects. This deck is super heavy control. That's just the name of the game of this deck. It's just blow it up, blow it up, blow it up. Next, we're going to have Kaya the Inexorable. She can put a ghost form counter on a creature, and when it dies, return it to its owner's hand and create a 1/1 flying spirit creature token. So that protects our creatures. That's recursion. You notice we have a little recursion theme in here because we have so few creatures. Next, we can deck 3 to exile target non-land permanent. So that exiles anything that's not a land. Then we get an emblem at the beginning of your upkeep. You may cast a legendary spell from your hand, from your graveyard, or from among cards you own in exile without paying its mana cost. Then we have Seraph. We can cast Seraph. We can cast Lisa. Lisa is a 5 mana 4/5 flying lifelink, and whenever another non-token creature I control dies, I can return it to my hand at the beginning of the next instep. If a creature an opponent would control would die, it's exiled instead. Again, controlling that graveyard. Over here we have our snow-covered plains, 6 of them. We have a Hive of the Eye of Tyrant, which is a creature. Creature land. It's a man land. It can turn into a creature. It helps us push through damage. Here we have 8 snow-covered swamps, 3 snow-covered forests, 2 of the white-black pathways, 2 of the black-green pathways, 1 of the green-white pathway, and then a farmland. This farmland is a check land. It comes into play tapped unless we have 2 or more lands under our control. Usually it comes into play untapped. It's not a problem. And that's it. That is everything for the green, white, black Abzan Boom deck. Just to let you guys know that didn't know that you can build control outside of blue. This is what it looks like. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Happy pack pulls. And as always, happy games.